and Amnesty International South Africa, together with the Ukrainian Association of South Africa and the Helen Suzman Foundation, are set to hold a peaceful demonstration at the BRICS summit in Sandton. The three organizations wanting Russia to stop the invasion of Ukraine. Well, joining us to explain the protests and the reasons behind it is Genevieve Quintal. She speaks for Amnesty International South Africa. Genevieve, good morning to you, and thank you very much for your time. Explain to us the purpose of these peaceful protests that you plan to embark on.
Good morning, Xoli, and thank you so much for having me. So as we said, we are demonstrating in solidarity with those in Ukraine, calling for an end to the invasion of Ukraine, and we're also standing in solidarity with those anti-war protesters in Russia who have been detained. There's been a major crackdown on anti-war protesters in the country. What we're saying is that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is a flagrant violation of the United Nations Charter and an act of aggression that is a crime under international law. The Russian government is not only violating international humanitarian and human rights law in its war of aggression against the Ukraine, but its crackdown on people in Russia who are speaking out about the invasion goes against the rights of freedom of expression and assembly, which is something that as a South Africa prides ourselves in terms of our constitution. So we are really standing in solidarity with those people, Xoli, and we're calling on world leaders attending BRICS to uphold human rights by demanding that the Russian authorities stop the act of aggression against the Ukraine and end attacks on civilians, and that they also stop violating the rights of people in Russia who are peacefully protesting the war, who are expressing themselves in their own country.
Yeah. Genevieve, most often you would have these protests, if they are going to make any impact, the size of the protest matters. Therefore, how big a gathering are we likely to see? And more importantly, who do you hope is likely to listen to this, in particular the cries around the people of Ukraine who are being brutalized?
But Xoli, we were expecting the protesters on as we speak. We have about 50, 60 people there. Like you said, we are doing this in partnership with the Ukrainian Association of South Africa and the Helen Suzman Foundation. It's a bit disappointing for us that when we applied for the protest is happening at Innes Park in Sandton, which is almost 4 kilometers away from the Sandton Convention Center, which isn't ideal considering that, the leaders that we are trying to target are attending the BRICS summit. The BRICS summit's happening, the official starts a little later today, but we're sort of away from the hub of where all of this is happening. So we are relying on the media to get our message across. This is the second time as Amnesty International South Africa we are holding such a protest. We held one last year outside the Russian embassy in Pretoria. And so, yes, we're just hoping that the message gets across. Whether it's through you guys like the media, we won't keep quiet no matter where you put us, and we're standing in solidarity with everyone who is having their rights violated at this stage on both sides of the fence. Yeah.
Genevieve, critics listening, and in particular how you have framed this protest and who it centers around in particular, they're going to say that why is it that Ukrainian lives matter or should matter more than the lives that have been lost in Sudan? There's a number of people who've been uprooted from their homes because of the war that is going on there. And you look at the coups that are taking place in West Africa. Those, if allowed to continue any further, that is likely to have a further knock-on impact on the lives of a number of Africans. So why is it that there isn't a voice advocating for the suffering of those on the continent?
Just Paulie, there is a voice advocating for those suffering on the continent. And let me first say that no life is more important than another life. We stand with the people of Sudan who are also their rights are being violated because of the civil war. We do have Amnesty International as a global organization. We've been doing a lot of work on Sudan. We've been doing a lot of work on what's been happening in Ethiopia, all around the continent. Why we are specifically doing this protest today is because of the BRICS summit, because Russia is part of the BRICS. There will be, although President Vladimir Putin won't be here, there will be Russian officials here. It's not to say that we believe that the lives of Ukrainians are more important than the Sudanese or anyone else on this continent. And like I said, Amnesty International as a global movement has been working on all these issues, fighting for the rights of everyone whose lives are, the right to life is a fundamental human right. And we have been speaking out about all of these. And when I say we, I mean Amnesty International as a global movement. But for now, why our focus today was on this was because of BRICS, because of the Russia being part of that bloc, and why we're calling on leaders who are part of BRICS to hold Russia accountable. And we call on leaders globally to do the same all over the world. But because of the BRICS summit, this is why this one is specific to Ukraine, and not because we believe that Ukrainian lives are more important than others.
Genevieve Quintal, thank you very much for your time. She speaks for Amnesty International South Africa. All right.